What's up, Bears fans, and welcome back to another video. As most of you guys know, the schedule is out, and today I'm going to be going through the Bears games and giving you guys my prediction. So with that being said, let's start. So the Bears will start out their season at home against the San Francisco 49ers. This is a tough game to start at the season because the Niners have a lot of talent with people like Trey Lance, George Kittle, Nick Bosa, Deebo Samuel, and many others. Last year, the Niners were very close to making the Super Bowl, and I think they will at least be playoff contenders this season. This is going to be a difficult game for the Bears, and unfortunately, I think that they will lose this game. So week 2, the Bears will travel to Green Bay to play our rivals on Sunday Night Football. This Packers team won't be as good as they were last year because of all of their departs and lack of firepower on the offense, and especially in the receiving core. Though they got Christian Watson in the draft, they still do not have a consistent receiving core with Devontae Adams going to the Raiders. I expect them to be more of a run-heavy team this year due to their lack of wide receivers. Though the Packers won't be as good as they were last year, I still think that they will be pretty good and give us some trouble, giving us our second loss of the season. On to week 3 now. We are coming back home to play the Texans. The Texans finished third to last in the league last year, but though they are picking up some decent picks in the draft, I still think they're not going to be good this season. And with all that being said, I think the Bears will pick up their first win of the season. Week 4, the Bears will travel to New York to play the Giants. The Giants had some good picks in the draft with Kayvon Thibodeaux and many others. I think the Giants will improve a lot this season, and I think they will give us a little problem with Saquon Barkley, but I think the Bears will be able to win this game and move to 2-2 on the season. For week 5, the Bears will go to Minnesota for their second away game in a row. The Vikings have some firepower on offense with Justin Jefferson and Dalvin Cook. Justin Jefferson is a very good wide receiver who will give the Bears secondary a problem. The Bears did add some power to their secondary in the draft with people like Kyler Gordon and Jaquan Brisker, but I still think that the Bears will not be able to keep up with Justin Jefferson and the Vikings' passing attack. So I think that they will lose this game and drop to 2-3 on the season. On to week 6, the Bears will come back home to Chicago for their game against the Washington Commanders on Thursday Night Football. The Commanders went and got Carson Wentz this offseason, and I think the Commanders will be a decent team this year with their new additions. I also think that Terry McLaurin will give the Bears secondary some more trouble, but I do think that the Bears will be able to hold on and get the win to move to 3-3 on the season. Now for week 7, the Bears will travel to Foxborough to play the Patriots on Monday Night Football. The Patriots have a very good shot at being playoff contenders again this season. Mac Jones did prove himself last year that he's capable of being a good QB, and the Patriots have a decent defense that may give Justin Fields and the Bears offense some troubles. The Patriots did, though, lose J.C. Jackson in the secondary and haven't really gotten a good replacement for him. With all that being said, I think the Bears might be able to pull through and win this game, but I could see this going anyway. Now for week 8, we travel to Dallas to face off against Dak Prescott and the Cowboys. The Cowboys had a promising season last year, but had a disappointing end losing in the wildcard round to the Cowboys. The Cowboys also lost Amari Cooper this offseason, which could hurt them. They do have a good secondary with Trayvon Diggs leading them, and I still think that the Cowboys will be good. And I think that the Cowboys will give the Bears their 4th loss of the season. For week 9, the Dolphins come to Soldier Field to play the Bears. The Dolphins are a young team that was able to play good football last year. Although they weren't able to make the playoffs, they were still a pretty decent football team, finishing with a 9-8 record. They have a decent secondary, which will give the Bears passing game a problem, but they do have a question mark at QB with Tua Tagovailoa, and I think he still hasn't proved himself in the league yet. I think the Bears are going to lose and drop to 4-5, but I do have this game going either way. On to week 10, the Lions come to Chicago to play the Bears. This is the first matchup against each other, and by now everyone should know if the Lions are a legit team or not. Many people have hyped the Lions this season, saying they're going to have an amazing season, but by week 10, everyone should know if they're good or not. I think the Bears will have somewhat of a challenge against the Lions this year because of the improvements they have made. Also, I think that the Lions' second overall pick, Aiden Hutchinson, will give the Bears' O-line some problems. With all that being said, I think the Bears are going to be able to get past the Lions and move on to 5-5 on the season. Now for week 11, the Bears travel to Atlanta to play the Falcons. The Falcons don't have Matt Ryan for the first time in a while this year, but they do have Marcus Mariota and they drafted Desmond Ridder. They also have a new wide receiver in Drake London that they acquired from the draft. With all the new talent, I still think that the Bears will be able to take care of the Falcons and move to 6-5 on the season. For week 12, the Bears will go to New York and play the Jets. The Jets still don't know if Zach Wilson is their guy at QB because he hadn't played too well last season, and he still needs to prove himself. The Jets did draft Sauce Gardner to help their secondary. But even with the new help, I think that the Bears will be able to take care of the Jets and move on to 7-5 on the season. For Week 13, the Bears will come back home to play the Packers in their second matchup this season. The Packers still have an uncertainty in their wide receiver core, but they do have a solid secondary and run game, and I think they will be able to use that to their advantage against the Bears. The Packers did lose a key pass rusher in Zadarius Smith, which will be bad for them, but after saying that, I think that the Packers will be able to beat the Bears and make the Bears drop to 7-6 on the season. The Bears have a really late bye at Week 14, and this isn't very good, but it can let the players rest and recover from any injuries that they may have. For Week 15, the Eagles are coming to Chicago to play the Bears. The Eagles were a good team last year, finishing 9-8 and making the playoffs. The Eagles also have a lot of talent on the offensive side of the field, all starting with Jalen Hurts. The Eagles also have a good secondary and defense, and I think they will be really good this year and be playoff contenders. I don't think that the Bears will win this game, and I think they will drop to 7-7 on the season. Now on to Week 16, the Bills are coming to Chicago to take on the Bears on Christmas Eve. The Bills were very good last year, and in my opinion should have gotten further in the playoffs. The Bills have a very good running and passing game as well as a passing defense. But I see the Bills as legitimate Super Bowl contenders this year. And with that being said, I think that the Bills will easily take down the Bears, dropping them to 7-8 on the season. The Bears will now travel to Motor City to take on the Lions. I think by now the Lions would have improved drastically because they have a pretty decent secondary, which may give the Bears some problems. I think the Bears will win and beat the Lions, but in a very, very close game, and move to 8-8 on the season. The Bears come home for the last game of the season against the Vikings. The Vikings, like I said before, have a very good wide receiving core and run game. Their secondary is good as well. The Vikings missed the playoffs last year, but didn't finish too bad. I predicted the Vikings to win the first matchup against the Bears, but I think the Bears might win this last game to finish the season with a record of 9-8. Thanks to everyone who made it to the end of the video. If you enjoyed, then please stay tuned for more Bears videos. Thanks for watching, and bear down.